Anyone can agree to the saying that the lows are worse than the highs. This definitely applies to diabetes. When I get low blood sugar, I feel terrible. When my blood sugar is really high, I actually don't feel too bad. I mean, if it's high for an extended period of time, yeah, I can feel pretty shitty, but generally when it's low is when it's the worst. And I've had some pretty bad lows. My blood sugar range is 80 to 180 because I have cystic fibrosis as well. For people with just strictly diabetes, it's generally 70 to 120. It's a smaller range. The lowest low I've ever had is 32. I was in my kitchen and I was perfectly talking to my parents and I was okay and I was like, oh, I feel kind of funky, I'm gonna check my blood sugar. And it was 32, and a lot of times at 32, you're unconscious. I've seen people with blood sugar as low as 19, and they're still conscious. It's incredible how the human body can compensate for undesirable conditions, like low blood sugar. I remember the first time I was low, I was 7th grade, and I was walking across the playground, because the playground is where we got picked up, like in front of it. And I was walking across the playground to go into the building because I think I felt my blood sugar getting low, and so I was gonna go to my best friend's grandma, who was basically like my grandma. And she had like a stash of sugar for me, so I was going to her, and I remember I could see people, but like I couldn't see their faces. It was a really weird feeling because I could look at my friends and I knew that I knew them, but I remember asking one of my friends, Rita, I was like, who are you? And my best friend Katie was with me, and I was like asking her, I was like, who are you? Where am I? What's going on? It was weird and it was scary. Over the years, as I've had low blood sugars, it's gotten better. I mean, not necessarily better, but I at least know who people are and where I am. I remember once in 8th grade, we were on a field trip, and we were walking to the local college because we were going to be doing some kind of presentation on something. I don't remember what the presentation was anymore, but I met my mom halfway and I dropped off my backpack with her because I didn't want to carry it all the way, and my diabetes supplies were in there and I forgot about it. And we got to the place and we were doing our thing, and all of a sudden, like, I turned to my best friend and I'm like, my blood sugar's low. And I was like, crap, I don't have my meter to check it. I just knew it was really low, so then I tried calling my mom to get what I needed from her and to find out what to do. Because, you know, I'd only been living with this for about a year, so it was still fairly new to me, and I was confused and scared. And I remember calling her, and I couldn't control what I was saying. I called her on the phone, and, I mean, being in 8th grade, I was still, you know, now I'm not as conservative about the language I use around my parents or around friends or anything. You know, I'm not like, oh, I can't say hell in front of adults, or don't say damn, or, I mean, I've got a pretty bad mouth. I called my mom, and I was like, she didn't answer. I was on her voicemail, and I was like, Mom, my fucking blood sugar's low, and I don't know what the fuck to do, and I'm so fucking confused, and I don't fucking feel good, fuck, shit, fuck. And, like, I wasn't aware of saying this until later. When my parents came to pick me up, they were like, do you realize what you were saying? And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, pretty much every other word out of your mouth is the F-bomb. And I was like, I mean, I was horrified. I felt so bad. Those are, like, some of the two, like, most memorable cases of low blood sugar. Aside from the other two, where I had seizures. The first one was in November of 2009. My friend Rita was spending the night. We'd just gone out for dinner at Olive Garden, and we do that about once a year. We go out to dinner to Olive Garden and catch up on things and talk, and I mean, because we've known each other since we were 3. What I remember is we went to bed. Next thing I remember is I'm on the edge of the bed closest to the computer, where I generally sleep up against the wall. And there were a bunch of people in my room talking, and someone was feeding me orange juice. I was so confused, and then I remember flying up from my bed, racing into the bathroom, and just puking all over in the sink. And then I like fell back and I like stumbled back to my room and I was like, where am I? What's happening? What's going on? And they said they needed to take me to the hospital because I had a seizure. Because my blood sugar dropped in my sleep, and apparently Rita woke up to me seizing with my eyes rolled back, and I was apparently foaming at the mouth, flailing around in my bed, totally unconscious. And she went and got my parents out of their room, and they called 911, and paramedics came, and they took me to the hospital. I remember when I was there, I was in a wheelchair, and I kept asking, where am I, what's going on? And Mom had to keep telling me, you just had a seizure, you're in the hospital. Your blood sugar was low, you had a seizure, we took you to the hospital, that's where you are right now. And it didn't seem to register, and I kept asking a lot. They did a CAT scan to make sure that, you know, I didn't have brain damage, like the seizure was caused by low blood sugar, not some neurological deficiency. And they made sure my blood sugar was up, and I don't remember a whole lot. After that, for a while, I was terrified to sleep by myself. I made Mom put a baby monitor in my room to, just monitor me in my sleep because I was scared it was going to happen again. I came to realize afterwards, if Rita hadn't been there and hadn't gotten my parents and they hadn't raised my blood sugar, I honestly could have died. It was scary as hell. It really scarred me. Then a year later, a kid from my school died in his sleep from low blood sugar. And it was exactly a year to the day of my seizure. And that was another kind of wake-up call, and I was freaked out again. Not because it happened to me, but because it happened to somebody I knew. You know, it was heartbreaking. Everyone was devastated, and for me, it was terrifying. The reality really hit me then. He had nobody there with him when he had his seizure. There was nobody to help him. And I am so grateful that Rita was there with me that night. Rest in peace, Alec. I miss you. The other time was December of 2010, just about a month after Alec's death. I was Christmas shopping in Walmart. As I was walking, I was going through the grocery section. I realized I didn't feel good. So I went back and I just grabbed a bottle of orange juice like that big. It was a fairly big bottle, and I just chugged it. I figured, I have the bottle, I'll go up and pay at the register, but right now I need to worry about getting my blood sugar up. And I was going down the bread aisle, and the last thing I remember was looking at a loaf of bread to get because my parents wanted bread. Next thing I remember, I'm laying on a stretcher in the Walmart aisle looking up at a bunch of paramedics. I'm asking, what the hell's going on? What just happened? And, it was the same thing as a couple years ago when, a couple years prior to this, when I had the seizure. I kept asking what was happening, where I was, what was going on. They kept telling me I had a seizure. They're taking me to the hospital, and it didn't register. Then I started crying. I was so scared, I was so confused, my brain just like short-circuited and couldn't comprehend what was happening to me. And they took me to the hospital, and they told me what happened was I just collapsed and I fell onto this guy's cart, and I totally bruised up. I can't remember which side it was. I think it was my right side. I totally bruised it up because I just collapsed on his cart and started seizing. And the guy called 911, and not only was it scary, but it was embarrassing because it happened in public where I just dropped right there and just started convulsing. There's occasionally times where I'll make a joke about it. How terrified that guy must have been to just, be shopping in Walmart and all of a sudden this girl just falls into his cart and starts, not something you expect when you go to Walmart. Luckily, I haven't had any incidents since then. I have lost consciousness a couple times from low blood sugar. When I was at camp, diabetes camp, a couple times I got low blood sugar and I just passed out. Remember, we were at a dance. They had like dances occasionally, like the last 3 nights or something. And I was at one and I was dancing, and also my blood sugar was low, and so I went and told one of the counselors, and they were walking me back. 2 of them were. and they were on either side of me, and I just boom. And luckily they caught me, and they like dragged me over to the benches. And then once we were zip lining and jumping from 50-foot tall trees on like ropes and stuff, and doing all this cool obstacle course shit that like was so fun. And I remember there was one where I was just sitting there and I was watching somebody else do it. I looked at one of the counselors and she's like, we need to check your blood sugar. Like as soon as she said that, I just like slumped back and was out. And I came to with like a couple seconds later. Now when my blood sugar is low, my most prevalent symptoms are I get really cold. I mean, unbearably cold, where my whole body hurts. My muscles hurt because there's not enough, I'm not exactly sure how it works, but like I'm not getting enough oxygen throughout my body, so my muscles really start to ache. I get dizzy and lightheaded. I get super hungry. I could eat just about anything. I also get nauseous. Those are about my main symptoms, and to bring it up, I drink juice and like eat saltine crackers because that's a good combination of carbs and protein, which helps to balance your sugar out. And I hate when my blood sugar is low. I mean, it's one of the worst feelings when your blood sugar is low. I mean, you feel terrible. It's hard to describe to somebody who doesn't know what it's like. I don't even know. It's just, I'd rather be high than low, and I think anybody can agree to that for almost anything. You know, the highs are better than the lows. People prefer being up here as opposed to down here. It's just a fact. And it generally applies to diabetes. Not necessarily that you want to be, you know, up in the 300s, 400s, 500s, so much as you want to be like in the 100s, you know. But personally for me, I'd rather be in the 400s than, you know, like 60 or 50 or, you know, 32, because I don't feel the effects as strongly as I do when I'm low. For any diabetics out there, I was just curious, you know, how do you deal with lows? What does it feel like for you? You know, do you get the shakes? Do you get cold, or do you get hot? Or, you know, what's your symptoms of being low? What do you do to treat it? What do you do to prevent it? What's the worst low you've ever had? You know, I'm curious, you know, how other people have dealt with it, what it's like for other people, you know, because I only know what it's like in my shoes. You know, I can't step into somebody else's life and see. I mean, the closest I got was being at diabetes camp, and we were all crammed together for a week in a cabin or a tent, and so someone got low. I mean, we were right there and we could see it. But, you know, it's always nice to hear more stories from other people and to be able to relate to other people or compare. So, you know, I want to know.